Hey YouTube, Rockstar here. Today I'm going to be doing my nails. Some little fake glue on, press on nails, but while I do that, I just want to tell you the story of Mary Vincent. You probably heard about her, LA Times. She was featured on I Survived, I Shouldn't Be Alive, shows like that. And other YouTubers talk about her all the time as well. But a little background about Mary. Mary was 15 years old, and this happened in September of 1978. And at the time, Mary was stressing hard because her parents were getting divorced. And like most kids, that's a stressor. That's a stressor to people. So she decided to run away. But before Mary ran away, she was a dancer. And she danced at now, don't kick me off for pronouncing this wrong or whatever, because I don't know. I never heard of the dance deal. But Lido de Paris in Las Vegas. And look, she had it in her mind. She had her mind made up that she was going to make it in LA as a dancer. She was going to leave. She was going to leave Las Vegas and make it as a dancer in LA, and then Hawaii, and then Australia. She had it. She had everything covered as far as she felt and she thought. And she said her dancing instructor helped her come up with that plan. But, as we all know, being homeless and being 15, it gets a little tough. So when it got tough, she didn't want to be on her own anymore. She really missed her family, and she wanted to go home. She was so desperate to go home. So she was standing around near Berkeley, California, and she was out there. So actually, she had ran away already from Nevada, but she was on her way back to Nevada. But she was picked up in Berkeley, California. But when she was out there, she was standing with two other people, and then she was holding a sign that said "Going South." And back in the 70s, hitchhiking was, I'm not going to say safe, but it was a common thing to do. So she was holding up a sign saying "Going South." A lot of people did that and, hitched rides. So with Mary were two other people standing out there, and this blue van pulls up. And it is none other than Lawrence Singleton. At the time, Lawrence was 51 years old. And like I said, Mary, she was 15. So Mary was 15. She was standing out there with these two other people. And he told them when he pulled over, he only had room for one person. So they told her, look, I don't know if it's a good idea if you go. You shouldn't go because, room for one person. And he don't even have nothing in the back of the van. Here's a whole van. It's only 3 of us. Why can't we all go? Don't get in that van, sis. Sis ain't want to listen. She was desperate to get home. She was tired. She wanted to go home. She was just ready to go, so and she even admitted she was just not using her better judgment that day. So she wasn't using her better judgment, and she hopped in the van anyway. She was just ready to go. At this point, she was she did think about it. She said he made her immediately feel comfortable. He was she said he reminded me of my grandpa, and who was scared of their grandpa? I hope you're not scared of your grandpa. If you are, I don't know, something's up with your grandpa, but okay. Anyway, then she said she was even thinking about it if anything does happen, I should be alright. He's old, I'm young. I'm fast, he's probably slow. I'm healthy, he's not. She didn't take into the fact, though, that she was a young girl, not woman, but girl, and he was a grown man. But, I mean, that's neither here nor there now. This girl, she is still strong for everything she went through. So, when she gets in the car, she's exhausted. She's a little comfortable, so she falls asleep. Okay, so Mary falls asleep. After a while, I'm not even sure how much time had elapsed at this point, but after a while, she wakes up and she looking around yeah, no, this don't look right. She sir, grandpa, excuse me, grandpa, I think we're going the wrong way. He like, oh, you good, girl. Chill out. You ain't going the wrong way. And she said, no, we're going the wrong way. And you know you are. So at this point, you know, they having their little stare off like, you going to pull over? Or do I got to make you pull over? You going to... So old Larry tries to make her feel at ease. But, you know, at this point, she has that uneasy feeling. She knows something is wrong. And she said he starts to pull over, like, for a rest stop and a bathroom break, as he tells her. And at that point, she's like, I looked down and my shoes were untied. And she was like, look, I had to tie them things up. So, just in case, so when I first step out of here, I can jump out and start, you know, I can break, I can take off. But that didn't happen, y'all. After that, instead of tying her shoe in the car, she gets out the van when it stops, bends over to tie her shoe, and she ain't see anything but blood. I know I did not. Damn. Oh my God. I got it, y'all. But anyway, everything goes to black. At that point, he had hit her on the back of the head with a sledgehammer, knocked her out cold. So she was out. When she finally did woke up, she woke up in the back of his van with both of her arms tied and chained, like, you know, out like that to either side of the van. Like her arms are just straight out, tied up to either side of the van. And he proceeds to rape her all night. He raped her several times that night. He really did. He raped her several times. So of course she's crying, she's screaming, she's kicking, trying to get anybody to hear her. Of course nobody comes to her aid, and you know, she was just wanted to be let go. She's pleading with him, she's begging, please set me free, please, please, please set me free. And you know, this goes on all night long where she's asking to set her free. So he's like, you want to be set free? And she said she remembers this specifically. He said, like, along the lines of, you want to be set free? I'll set you free. And he goes into his toolbox and he pulls out a hatchet from the toolbox and chops right at her left arm. Like, chops through her left arm. And at the time, she's like, you know, your adrenaline's pumping. Of course, I felt the pain. But at the same time, she's thinking like, bitch, no you didn't. You did not just chop my arm off. No, you didn't. So she's like, at this point, I don't even notice my arm going. And she says she grabbed him, tried to hold on to him. And she says she remembers falling. And she's like, I don't understand how I'm falling when I'm holding on to this guy so tightly. So the arm was already severed at this point, since she wasn't expecting him to, like, who was expecting anybody to just chop off their arm? So he chopped off her arm, and with that, she fell, and she's like, how could I fall if I was holding on so tightly? But anyway, she held on so tightly that her hand grabbed onto his arm and was holding on so tight that even after her arm was severed, that her hand was still holding on to this guy. And she was like, he's going like this, shaking it, trying to shake off her arm. And it ain't going nowhere. Sis like, yeah, you chopped my arm off, but I ain't letting go. That's what you get. I'm not letting go. Shouldn't have did it. But anyway, sis is just holding on for dear life. Even though the arm ain't attached, she's still holding on. She holding on like a grudge. You hear me? So he finally gets the arm off. Like, he had to, like, pry her fingers back and get the arm off. Gruesome. Gruesome, gruesome. But anyway, so at this point, she's, of course, if anybody, like anybody would be, she's fighting, she's kicking, she's still screaming. She's trying to get away. And he goes at her other arm. And this time, since she's fighting a lot more than she did with the previous arm, it's taking longer, you know, so he had to chop at this one a few times more than he did the first time, because now she's actually fighting and she's trying to prevent him from doing this. At this point, you know, her body's in shock. She's lost a lot of blood. She's bleeding everywhere. And she said she felt like she was just going in and out of consciousness. So she said she was very aware of everything. She remembers everything. And at that point, he must have thought she was dead. And he took her. He took her and threw her over a 30-foot cliff. Just like she was trash. Like she was just nothing. Like you just toss somebody over a cliff. I'm telling y'all, this Larry guy is trash. It's freaking trash. I just can't even get over the fact that her hand stayed clenched after the arm was severed. I can't even get over that part. But anyway, he threw her off on around like Interstate 5 near, and like I said, y'all, forgive me if I'm pronouncing names wrong. Cities, states, towns, whatever. I'm not from California, so, but the Del Puerto Canyon in California, off of Interstate 5, and he threw her off there naked and bleeding, and she was in and out, but she knew she had to get help or die. And even when she was getting raped, she even said, like, I just wanted to die, I just wanted to die, I just could not take it anymore, I was just through, like, I just could not, you know. And I can understand that. But at the same time, she was like, I can't let this happen to somebody else. If he pulls, she said she didn't even know he pulled off yet. But at the same time, she was like, if he pulls off, he's going to do this to somebody else. And she said, I can't have that. I can't let that happen. I cannot let him do this to another girl. So, sis, let me tell you, probably off of sheer adrenaline alone, but she climbed back up the canyon, a 30-foot drop, which she broke. I think it was 4 ribs. Yes, she broke 4 ribs during the fall. So, and then actually she was bleeding so profusely, and this was very smart on her part, especially when you're fighting for your life. Like, how can you even think to do this? She took her stubs and took them and put them in dirt and mud and packed the mud in there because she knew the mud would dry. So that way her arms could stop bleeding. And then she held them up to keep the blood circulating back up through, you know, through her arms. And she climbed up this cliff, 30 feet with 4 broken ribs and no arms, back up to the highway. Okay. So of course, I'm not going to sit up here and knock the person who didn't stop for her, because I cannot, especially if my kids were in the car, I could not sit here and tell you I would stop when I seen somebody bleeding from head to toe with no arms and full of mud. Like, who? I mean, most people are like, oh my God, I would stop. But you don't know that. That probably was scary. That probably looked like she just jumped out of a horror movie. That was scary. So, I mean, I want to say I would stop, but honestly, I don't know. I don't know if somebody was chasing that girl or somebody's behind her, and as soon as she hopped in my car, I was next. You just got to think about that stuff, and somebody got to think about themselves and their families, you know. So, she said the first car she saw was a red, sporty, convertible type car. And the guy that was driving it just, like, screamed and sped away. He was like, no, sorry. Just no. He was not trying to hear. I don't know if he, like, and this is 1978. So, of course, this is before cell phones, before all the technology we have. So, it's not like he could call 911 right then and there. But I don't know if he went somewhere else and maybe called. I'm hoping he did. And probably feel like shit now that he saw that girl and did not stop. But the second, and then, oh my God. And as if that was not enough. After that, she didn't see another car for 3 miles. She walked, half dying, bleeding, naked, no arms, 4 broken ribs, for another 3 miles until a couple pulled up and saw her. And of course, they were like white as ghosts when they saw. They were so scared, but they stopped anyway. And they did help her, and they did take her to the hospital. So that was probably her only silver lining out of all this, because this was crazy. So, After they took her to the hospital, I believe they did finally catch him, and she ID'd him 10 days later. Yes, 10 days later, she did ID him, and she got to face him in court 6 months later. Yeah, 6 months later, she did get to see him in court. So she testified against him, and at the time, the laws were a little bit more lax and lenient, and people did not, especially when you hear all these serial killer stories, people never ever get the time that they should get. The judge, however, did say, if I could send you to jail for your natural born life, I would. But he couldn't. At the time, this man, after picking up this 15-year-old girl, raping her all night long, and then chopping her arms off, throwing her over a cliff, only got 14 years. 14 years. And if that does not add insult to injury, he only served 7 of them. He only served, or was it 8 of those years? He only served 8. And guess what it was for? Guess why he got paroled? Good behavior. He ain't have good behavior when he was chopping Mary's arms off. He ain't have good behavior when he was raping nobody. I just can't even believe that the parole board would even let that happen. This man should have been sentenced to death, not getting paroled. Not getting paroled. That was just a spit in the face. But you know what? And then another thing, when she walked out of the courtroom, she had to pass him going out. And you know what he said to her? He whispered to her, if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to finish the job. And he still only got those 14 years. And he still only got paroled 8 years later. But when he got paroled, everybody was so pissed that they were holding marches. They were protesting. They were picketing. They were trying to sit outside and wait outside the jail for him. Everything. Nobody was trying to hear it. Nobody wanted them in his town. So everywhere they tried to parole him to, they couldn't take him because nobody wanted him there. So what he had to do was live in a trailer on the grounds of San Quentin before he could leave and go live where he wanted to. Because by him being paroled, he was only on parole for a year. And he was on parole for that year and lived on the grounds of San Quentin in a trailer because they couldn't find him anywhere to live. No halfway house would take him, and no town would let him live there because of all these lynch mobs. I don't even know why they protected him anyway. Like, they should just let him get him. I'm so serious. They should just let the people get him because, like, it wasn't right. It wasn't right. And then he only got that little bit of time. Crazy, right? So, after the San Quentin. So, anyway, Larry moved back to his hometown in his native Florida because that's where he's from. And as feared, he committed a lot of petty crimes since then, went to jail a couple of times, anywhere from, 16 days to 2 years. Like, he did all petty crimes. But in 97, he was found in his house, his New York. There was blood all over it. He actually killed someone this time, a woman by the name of Roxanne Hayes, who was a mom of 3. He was arrested February 19th, 1997, and he was sent to prison until the rest of his life, until he finally died on December 28th, 2001 in Florida of cancer. Meanwhile, Mary grew up. She got married, had kids. 2 boys, Luke and Alan. And then she became an artist by trade and lived a relatively normal life despite. I hope Mary is happy and knows how amazing she is for overcoming this tragedy. And I wish her nothing but peace and happiness. We love you, Mary girl. And with that said, enjoy me being my silly self. I'll catch y'all next time with a history video. So please like, comment, and subscribe and let me know the content you want.